Hello, people. So, these are the cells that are circulating in our blood. For example, erythrocytes are regarded as cells, but they actually don't have a nucleus and they don't have organelles. Platelets, on the other hand, are not regarded as cells but cell fragments. They actually peel off bigger cells called megakaryocytes in the bone marrow and then they are being pushed out into the bloodstream. Everything else here are actually white blood cells or leukocytes. Leukocytes have this division on granulocytes and agranulocytes. But actually, all leukocytes have some granules, but only a few of them have actually specific granules that give them specific colors on blood smears. Normally, in humans, the average number of leukocytes, or let's say the maximum number of leukocytes you can have in a cubic millimeter of blood is about 9,000. 9,000 to 10,000 on a cubic millimeter of blood. Of that, 50 to 70% are neutrophilic granulocytes. Or neutrophils. About 1 to 4% are actually eosinophilic granulocytes, and about 0.5 to 1% are basophils or basophilic granulocytes. So these cells actually represent the granulocytes because they have these specific granules. We have also the agranulocytes, the monocytes, which actually account for 3 to 8% of the cells, and last but not least, the lymphocytes, which account for 20 to 30% of the cells. These cells are called agranulocytes, but they actually have small azurophilic granules that are actually lysosomes. Now, there are many classifications of leukocytes. One of them is also on phagocytes and immunocytes. Phagocytes are neutrophilic granulocytes, eosinophilic and basophilic granulocytes, and monocytes, because they all have this function of phagocytosis. They can take parts of the outside, the extracellular matrix, and internalize them with phagosomes, vesicles. And then these vesicles merge with lysosomes, becoming phagolysosomes. And in that way, enzymes in the lysosomes can devour anything that is internalized in these cells. The second are the immunocytes, which are the lymphocytes, because the lymphocytes are the only cells that actually can modulate and regulate and direct the immune response. The third classification is actually old, and it regards some of these cells, especially neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils, as polymorphonuclear cells, because in the era of when there were no electron microscopes, scientists couldn't see these chromatin bridges, and they thought that these cells actually have separate nucleuses, but that isn't true. They actually have only one nucleus. All of these cells have only one nucleus, and they call these cells polymorphonuclear cells, and they call monocytes and lymphocytes mononuclear, which isn't actually true. Granulocytes only have segmented nucleuses, which makes it look actually like they have many nucleuses. Now, neutrophilic granulocytes have three types of granules: organelles and the nucleus, and of course a cytoplasm and a cytoskeleton and all other organelles. If we go from the nucleus of the neutrophilic granulocyte is most often segmented into three parts, but you can also find neutrophilic granulocytes with 4 or 5 parts. The organelles are not that well developed, and also there are 3 types of granules. There are specific granules. These granules actually have many enzymes, and the function of these enzymes is that they have antibacterial properties. Then we have azurophilic granules, which also have many enzymes, and they are actually lysosomes. And there are also tertiary granules that have enzymes that degrade the proteins in the extracellular matrix, so the neutrophil can easily move in the tissues. Neutrophils, their function is the fight against bacterial pathogens. And they are called neutrophils because the specific granules attract acid and base colors in the same way. So they have this purple color on the blood smear, and they are regarded as a neutral color, and they are called neutrophils. Eosinophils are cells that have these specific granules, and they also have azurophilic small granules. The azurophilic granules are also lysosomes, and these specific granules, they have 2 parts. One part is this outer part called externum, and the inner part called internum. The externum hosts a number of enzymes, and the internum has actually the major basic protein in it. The eosinophils degranulate when they come in contact with parasites, and they function as antiparasitic cells. These granules and the major basic protein can inflict damage on parasite walls. Also, the eosinophils play a role in allergic reactions. They are called eosinophils because these specific granules attract eosin, which is an acid color, and they are then actually color themselves orange. This is how they got the name eosinophilic granulocytes. Basophils have a nucleus that is like a horseshoe shape. They have also not that well developed organelles, and have also 2 types of granules: specific granules and azurophilic granules that are also lysosomes. The granules of the basophils have in them inflammatory mediators, most notably histamine. And basophils are very similar to mast cells or mastocytes. And both of these cells have actually on their membrane IgE receptors. And when IgE or immunoglobulin E activates them, they degranulate all that histamine, and then it comes to a big allergic reaction in the body. So they play a role in allergic reactions. Then we have monocytes. Monocytes are actually bigger than my representation. They can be about 20 micrometers, and all these other cells can be 10 to 15 micrometers. They have also a horseshoe or a kidney-like nucleus. They have good developed organelles, and also they have small azurophilic granules which represent lysosomes. They are traveling to the blood, going into the tissue, becoming tissue macrophages, who stay dormant until they encounter foreign antigens. And these cells are only using blood as a transport vehicle. Once they get into the tissue, they are not going out. So it's a one-way trip, which is not true for the lymphocytes. The lymphocytes use blood as a transport vehicle. They go into the bloodstream, into the lymph organs like lymph nodes, but they can also re-enter the bloodstream. Lymphocytes have a big nucleus. They have not that good developed organelles. They have also small azurophilic granules, which are lysosomes, and they can be subdivided by size. Small and big lymphocytes are found in the bloodstream, but mostly small lymphocytes are present in the bloodstream. Once they encounter antigens, they are being activated and can become bigger, hence called big lymphocytes. Also, They can be further subdivided based on the class of lymphocyte. There are B lymphocytes. The name of B lymphocytes, they got the name because the first B lymphocyte was found in a lymphatic organ in a bird, and this lymphatic organ is called bursa fabrici. That's why they called B lymphocytes. There are also T lymphocytes, which mature in an organ called the thymus. That's why those lymphocytes are called T lymphocytes. And of course, there are further subdivisions of those lymphocytes. So this is the basic overview of leukocytes and their functions in the body, and how the white blood cells are actually going through the blood into the tissue, and what are their statistics. Thank you.